All right, you ready?
Movie.
You ready? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Film Hustlers. What I wanted to get into is documentaries because our friend, Mario Lopez, Jeff Stearns, they did a documentary about Oscar de la Hoya.
Right.
And it premieres Monday. It's a two-part. It premieres on Monday. The second part's Tuesday.
24th to 25th.
Yeah, 24th and 25th of July.
Where can I see
It's
this?
going to be on HBO and Max. It's hard to say those things separately, but they are separate, right?
Yeah,
HBO,
they're going to go HBO first, and then it's going to flip to Max.
and
So
then
Max
Max.
is a stream
From
of
what
HBO. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it comes out, on Monday. So if you're listening to this over the weekend, on Monday you'll be watching. It's called Golden Boy.
The Golden Boy, not Golden.
I'm sorry, it's called. And here's Jeff Stearns. Jeff Stearns, welcome to the show.
Hey.
You got to get close to that mic, okay? Because otherwise we can't hear you. You have that little soft voice.
I just want to say congratulations to you folks for Beautiful Darkness.
Oh,
and
thank
for
you.
Judy. And I came out to the screening the other day, and it was terrific. You know, this podcast put together something that was beautiful.
Oh,
not dark, orness.
Not. There was no darkness in it.
No, there was no. Well, there was. To see you direct and write that, Tootie, was beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
And
thank
to see you guys come together and put that thing together, and it was amazing, and I was impressed and proud of all you
Hey,
guys.
it means
Proud
a
of all
lot.
you.
It means a lot.
Appreciate it.
Dude, that means a lot. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, so Dave and I saw The Golden Boy last night, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was a documentary that sort of took us through the beginnings and the whole part of Oscar de la Hoya's life that was the important part of him becoming an Olympic champion and then becoming a champion, the champion of the world, and what he went through and the things the turmoils and demons that he had to deal with.
Something we've never seen before, right? Because I mean, there's been stuff on Oscar, but he's always like the smiling, like, hey, you know. This I didn't get a chance. I haven't had a chance to see it, but from what I hear, it's like really him. Like it gets into some deep, dark.
Well,
secrets
what's
inside him.
extraordinary about him is that we have watched him since he was a little kid.
Yeah.
We have been inspired by him if you're Mexican American, like we are. And you followed him go through a lot of really weird stuff in his life, and you only had your opinions about what he was doing and what he wasn't doing. Why is he doing that? What's happening with his contract? Why is he fighting? Why is he firing managers? All this kind of stuff, right? So, all those questions are answered. So I guess the question for most people is going to be, how do you do a story like that, and how do you come up with the structure of how you're going to tell that story?
First of all, this episode is timely because of the writer's strike and all that's going on right now, because Unscripted is busy right now.
Yeah, it is.
I think how all of these ideas start is like on accident a little bit, and so this one sort of did. It was by circumstance in terms of like that Mario signed the deal at NBC, and we were trying to come up with content that was related to NBC Universal and the Olympics. I think at the time that we started, which was like 4 years ago, Summer Olympics were like around the corner, and we were talking about like, can we do a segment for them? Can we do something to like be a part of the Olympic, because NBC holds that? And so we talked about having Oscar, which I think he won the gold medal in 92.
Yeah.
So
Well, you did
before
the
we
doc,
started,
right?
no, before we started, no, well, no, but
Yeah.
I think he won the gold medal in '92. When we started this, it was probably 2021. It's been 3 years since we started it, and so we were like looking ahead, going, I wonder if we could do something on, the anniversary of it, and so that's how it started, where we were looking at doing an Olympic thing. And so we called like another guy who directed docs that was friends with Mario, who was like acclaimed at the time. I think he had a big one.
No, Lopez was going to direct at the beginning, remember?
Yeah, I think it was.
We went to Oscar's
We were like,
place.
nah,
Yeah, that doesn't work.
I don't know about that.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, Fu can't like stay focused on one
No, he
Instagram
couldn't.
post. He's no way he could do something like that.
Stearns was direct. He was
yeah,
like,
I was
"Come
like,
on,
hey,
Lopez."
yeah. It's like, nah. But so we started reaching out to some people who could do it, and so I said, hey, didn't Wahlberg, your homeboy, just do McMillions? Yeah. I said, why don't you call his ass up and see if he's interested in doing a boxing thing? He did The Fighter, so we know he likes that. He was like, should I call him? I'm like, yeah, call him up right now. And so literally, he called Wahlberg, picked up the phone. In 45 seconds, we go, do you want to do a documentary on Oscar? He goes, fuck yeah, I'm in.
Damn.
Within 45 seconds.
Yeah.
The last director, the other two people that we talked to, we were on the phone for like 2-3 hours about like, I don't know, will this work and where would it end up? It was the whole spiel and the runaround.
Right.
And Wahlberg's like, yeah, dude, cool. The only stipulation I have is I don't want to do the Olympics. I want to do the whole story. And so we're like, cool. He goes, come down in the office next week.
Did you know enough about Oscar to know, this is where this is going to go, and this is how we're going to get him to be super raw about his life? Like, how did all that come about?
Well, I think obviously if you like know anything about Oscar, there's a lot of stuff about his life. And Mario's been friends with him since they were teens, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, like way, way, way back. So it felt to me that at some point Oscar was going to do this story. And it just felt like a little bit of the right time. And so I don't know if Oscar necessarily knew at that time that he was going to do it. But when we sort of came to him and said, hey, Wahlberg is interested in doing the whole spiel, would you be willing to talk about everything, the whole thing? And Oscar kept saying, hey, you know what? It's the right time. I'm an open book. Let's do it. I'll talk about it all. And so that's how it sort of started, which was essentially by accident. But I think when you get like the right people behind you,
Yeah.
I think that helps.
The stars align.
Yeah, that helps.
So at the end of the day, you set forth to do a story that you think is important, that you think is going to resonate with an audience, and then you start discovering the different layers of what it's going to end up being as you go through it?
Yeah, I think that as a filmmaker, you have to like sort of figure out like what you want to do. Were we going to do a sports documentary, which obviously the market right now is oversaturated with all of them because there's a new one coming out every week now. There was something, Oscar's personal life has a lot of controversy behind it. So it didn't feel like it was ever just going to be a sports doc. And also, too, there was a cultural aspect in that he was like the first kind of crossover Mexican-American superstar that was getting, endorsements from Coca-Cola and enormous, American brands that where like white America felt comfortable with him.
Yeah.
And so we sort of like knew those things that, and Mario sort of dealt with it too a little bit of like being in between, the two worlds of that. But so we always sort of knew that was behind it. I remember that I wrote up like some, historical thing that was,
which was great,
super extra bloviated. And that kind of like starts the process of the conversation. And then when it gets into it, you sort of like, you narrow it down to like, what are we actually talking about? And so I think that we started with the idea that he was a champion boxer. We know that story, but we really want to know who he was as a human being, beyond that, because he's obviously complex. And the first thing that we had to do was get the idea. Wahlberg signed off. The first thing we had to do was like sell it to HBO, because Mark has a first look deal there. And so we scheduled a sit-down interview that Mario did. I don't know if anybody has seen any of this footage.
With Oscar, right? Yeah, with Oscar, yeah.
And so we did like 4 hours first day, and then Oscar kind of like went Oscar and pushed away like a lot of the hardcore questions that needed to be answered. So at the end of the day, me and Mario and Wahlberg's team got together and said, he's doing the same shit that he did before. This isn't going to work. He's going to have to tell the truth. So we called him that night and said, we're going to do this again tomorrow. And this time, we need you to answer truthfully. And he came back, to his credit, and did it. And based on that, like we shot like 20 minutes of an interview. We sent it to HBO. HBO was like, boom, let's do it. And signed on, and we were off and running. And then HBO had a couple of directors that they wanted us to use. We interviewed them, and we were lucky enough to get Fernando Villena, who is just a genius.
Yeah, he did an amazing job. I mean, I think it's interesting because when you think about relating to a subject like Oscar, you think about all the hopes and dreams that a person has, and I had to I was talking about it with my wife on the way home yesterday. I was like, it's weird watching somebody that got so famous and came from poverty, and you realize that a lot of people that do really, really well in life come from like that kind of weird relationship with their mom and dad, and like the weird Latino life and the weird Mexican American, like I'm not Mexican but I'm not American like thing. Yeah. And he talks about it a lot in the doc, and I really related to it. I was like, it's pretty remarkable how having a dream gets you so far in life. And I think that in the documentary you really get the feeling that that he suffered a lot, and that all he had was his dream of being somebody, and that was very relatable, I thought.
I think that the thing that we lucked out on was that we got Fernando, the director. And Fernando, who was, HBO wanted us to talk to. They liked him. He won the Sundance Audience Award, I think, the year before for another project that he did. But he was not a boxing fan. He didn't know anything about Oscar leading into it. Like, he didn't know. Like, Fernando. He didn't know nothing about, he didn't know nothing about
Take his Mexican card.
So he didn't know nothing about him. And so when we first met him, he was like, I don't know anything about him, but I'm interested in his story. Like, who is this human?
Yeah.
And
it's actually better for you.
And I remember thinking afterwards, like, we had the meeting, we were down here at Universal, and he left, and I called Mario afterwards, and I was like, I don't know, dude, is he the right guy? He don't know nothing about, like, his boxing shit.
That's what you were like.
And we were like, let's just play this out for a second. And I was never so wrong in my whole goddamn life.
Yeah.
Because it was perfect, because Fernando was interested in who he was as a human being.
Yeah.
And he didn't give a shit about who he was as a boxer.
Yeah.
Because we already know about that.
Yeah.
Who cares? The boxing is the environment.
Yep.
Who he is as a human is the story. And all the stuff that, like, leads to how he got to that point, but also, like, what dragged him down, is all stuff that's within Oscar that nobody really knows about. And Fernando, by the way, this took like 3 years to make this. It was like a year sort of setting it up, and then there was a year of Fernando just meeting with Oscar and talking to him without cameras, without anything. He just got to know him. And then once he got to know him, he went, I know what this is about. And I think that and so he found a way to talk to him, to like relate to him, he found the story within the story that we all thought that we knew, and that's why what makes this so interesting. But even over the course of like the year of doing the interviews, like Oscar changed during that course. Like he was a different person at the beginning, wanted to talk about stuff and was open and all that, and then he sort of was into something else during the end, and it changed the way that we looked at where we perceived our ending would be. And it wasn't what we intended, but it's great now, and everybody will see when they watch it next week where we ended up at. But at the heart of this, and we always go back and talk about it, that this is what documentary filmmaking is. It is organic. It changes every day.
Yeah.
And so we didn't go in with a preconceived idea of what we were trying to get a message across. And they do that a lot in some of the ones that you watch, or the subject is controlling the narrative or all that. No, we just figured it out as we went, and it changed. Like the end changed as we went multiple times. And so this is, I think that this is something that I think, as, me and Mario in my office 3 years ago, talking about this before anybody was on, the thing that I'm most proud of is that this was the most organic process ever in terms of like coming to the truth of a story about a human being that is still trying to figure out their life. We're not trying to put any bullshit on it. It is what it is. And at the end of this, like, you'll decide how you feel about him. That's all we're going to do.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a good documentary.
There's a couple of things that really stuck out to me, like his relationship with his family. Again, you got a kid from East LA, moves to Bel Air, makes a bunch of money, starts, living his life. And I don't know. I get the feeling that sometimes you don't want to go back to the way it was. You don't want to go back to East LA. You don't want to talk to your family members that, not everybody's
ask you for money and all that. Yeah, right. Every
Well,
athlete has that story. Like, man, every time I give my cousins,
Yeah.
I got to invest in their new
Someone's car broke down.
their new car wash.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the doc too, when he talks about like, yo, man, everybody told me like you're the future. You're the guy that's getting us out. He goes, dude, that's a lot of pressure.
I mean, he did buy them a house,
But is it big enough?
Yeah, is it big enough?
Is
Well,
it-
how come
does
it's
it-
not like yours
because
in
after
Bel
a
Air?
while it's not.
No.
Yeah. At first it is, but then it's not.
It was really fun to see things like when he won the gold medal that he would carry it around everywhere, and they'd be like, "Hey, you won the gold medal? Yeah, it's right here."
Yeah, right. You
Oh,
wanna see it?
really?
Yeah.
Oh, you went
Yeah, yeah,
around with
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Everywhere he went,
Oh,
they'd
that's
be like,
cool.
"Hey, so you won the gold medal? Where is it at right now? It's right here." You pull it
Because
out.
he was a kid. So 92, he must have been what, like
No, and
Dude,
he went. Yeah,
18?
no,
Yeah.
19, something like that?
Yeah.
If
But he was
19?
he was training since he was 5 years old. They all
Yeah.
told him that.
What's ironic is like when he talked, I had heard him say this before. He was like, "Yeah," and then my managers were supposed to get me a car and get me $1 million house, and they get me this jalopy, and then I saw the picture of the car, but in the 80s, if I had that car, it was a
You
nice
came
car.
up? Yeah.
It wasn't full when you're fighting for your life though.
No.
No.
No,
Yeah.
you're like at
And by
that
the way, it
level.
was like a lease, and the house was a lease, and they
Yeah.
all told him that it was like your house and all that. It was like, nah.
But it wasn't a jalopy.
But
Well,
take
it's
some
like-
money out of my
Yeah.
house. Whose house is it again?
It was like a 300ZX, a couple years old. That was still pretty nice,
I mean-
It's not easy making a guy like Oscar open up when his whole life has been about pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the first rough cut. As soon as Oscar showed up on camera, because everything that you see in interviews with him over the last like 20 years, like he's suited up and the light in his face, he's got makeup on, he's performed dancers, like all that stuff. And so Fernando, the director, who's, again, I will sing his praises until the end of time, is a genius, put him in a hoodie, black hoodie, in black and white, shot him close up, no makeup, no nothing. And as soon as I saw him, I turned around and I go, whose idea was it to put him in a hoodie? Because that is genius. We're disarming him immediately.
Yeah.
We're letting everybody know that, like, this is real, not lights and makeup and all the rest of the shit. Like, man, whose idea was it to put him in a hoodie?
Whose idea was it?
It was
Shoot a black
Fernando.
and
No,
white.
Fernando knew because there was this thing about Oscar being a phony in his interviews.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to immediately get rid of that. And so much of like the feeling from the audience is visual. Like, what are they taking in visually from what you're sending them? And so it doesn't matter if somebody's in a suit and tie and the lights on them and they got makeup on it, but they're telling you a story. You don't necessarily believe them. But if you see it, you believe them if you believe what they're putting off visually. So
Yeah.
And he was in black and white, I heard.
They did it in black and white,
Yeah.
and they shot him very close in his face, and they wanted to get his eyes, and
Yeah.
they just didn't want it to feel phony at all.
Right.
And there was so many instances like that we were aware of going in, that we talked about and went, how are we going to overcome this part of it?
Did you keep him black and white then, like through the whole thing? In
Most
the
of-
end, did he come to color or no?
Most of his interviews are in black and white. Yeah, most of his.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Really well lit. And I thought this is just inside baseball, but it was very cool to see like the interviews, and then they had like instead of having a lower third that came across the front,
Yeah.
they had like an old boxing poster.
Oh, that was dope.
An old boxing poster
from
that
Ring
showed up
Magazine.
behind them, like from Ring Magazine.
The old Ring Magazine.
And it
Yeah.
had the name of the person that they were interviewing, like if it
yeah,
was
yeah.
a box.
It like appeared
yeah.
on something. Say this,
Yeah,
like this little box right here would pop
Yeah.
up with the poster.
just right
Oh,
behind
cool.
it. Yeah, it was
Trying
super
to figure
cool.
out how to do the graphic of it. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super creative, and it felt authentic, and it felt unique.
He also did. I mean, like even when they interviewed Bob Arum,
yeah.
everybody had there was sort of a tone to all of the people that we interviewed for it, and Bob Arum was like the Godfather.
Yeah, Robert
And
was
so
like
they-
rich. Yeah, just rich.
And so Bob Arum was one of his first promoters. For anybody that doesn't know, and like basically legend. And
Yeah.
but they did it. They framed him in his Malibu house with like fire going,
Fireplace.
and he's sitting back in his
Warm
chair,
lights.
huge cut, and it was so gangster.
Yeah.
There was like sort of a tone behind
Yeah,
all of
that's
the.
cool.
interviewees that we did, that we wanted to give the audience a feel of like who they were.
Yeah.
And even with the professor in the first episode, one of Oscar's first trainers, it turns out that was like a communist, and you know, just like one of the best characters in the first one. We don't flash it at the beginning, but when they frame him up in the background, there's this giant mural behind him that you don't notice it, but if you look at it, when I'm telling you this, if you look at it, it's all like communist heroes, like Marx and
Really?
Lenin,
Che Guevara?
Che Guevara, Lenin, all of like it's all of these things, and you don't see it at first, but then at some point it's revealed to you that like the reason that Oscar's dad didn't like him because Oscar's dad was a religious, and he goes. He was a communist. It's terrible. And then all of a sudden we push in on the mural behind the guy, and you see that he was putting these ideas in Oscar's head. Yeah. It's just, visually, there are things that we try to push to you without saying it,
Yeah. And Lopez had 80s music going in on his. Stevie B, dun, 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 dun. He's dancing in his chair.
Impressive trip down, memory lane, and I think documentaries are super important to our business because they give you an insight to heroes that you had no idea. And by the way, I've known Oscar and I've known him for a while. I never knew the things that I learned in the documentary about him. And like I said, I got emotional a couple of times just because you're like, you don't realize what people go through to be what we call our heroes, people that you follow and admire. And they go through a lot, and he went through a lot in his life to get to where he is. And, and you guys are going to find out a lot about Oscar that you never knew before. So it's totally worth watching. What I do want to ask is, in our movies, when we do movies, we use extrememusic.com. To fill all our Christmas stuff and all the stuff we do, even Beautiful Darkness, the whole thing is Extreme Music. How did you guys have a composer? I'm guessing because of the amount of money that you spent on this thing, you had a composer, right? How did you guys come up with the theme of the movie?
We like these sort of arias, these big dramatic, classical pieces that we used in it. I thought the first episode did a really great job of sort of doing that. It's more like we saw it as an art piece, that's really what it was. That what's the feeling of the scene? Is there a driving rhythm behind it? Archie Gips, who's Wahlberg's main guy over at Unrealistic that runs his company over there, he's like a music buff like you are, Roberts, and he was like, I don't want this, I need a classical crescendo at this moment. The whole movie to us felt like a Shakespearean tragedy, and so we tried to have that be sort of the feeling of it.
To see East Los Angeles and see like all of those like really old cemeteries and see like Eastern Boulevard and all that with classical music playing behind it was really cool. You felt the theme to the movie. You felt like the music was driving you, and you felt the music was giving you like your emotions. I think so much too
in a lot of the documentaries that they do, like the music behind it kind of gives you the tone and the feel of what it is. Like how serious am I going to take this moment? And so I think that there are parts of this where some of it is like rhythm. How do we get them to the next part of this? But some of it too is like, hey, pay attention here. We're going to put some piece of music on this that's going to get you invested in this moment, and we're going to build you to the place that we want you to go or want you to feel like when we get done with this little segment. There's a great one with Oscar, or with Chavez. With Chavez, the second fight that he did, that we sort of like built in this crescendo-y, opera-y kind of thing with it, and had Oscar's brother reveal this story about when Oscar came of age and finally like whooped his ass. When his brother realized that like he couldn't beat him up anymore, and so he like his brother told this story about how he hit him in the kitchen, and Oscar turned and he cracked him, and we intercut that with Oscar fighting Chavez for the second time and finally beating his hero, finally beating the guy, which we sort of went Chavez and his older brother was the same person.
Yeah.
And we put on this very serious sort of operatic, thing to it to go. This was the moment when he became a man, as a child and as a boxer.
Yeah.
So there was all those things.
It had themes, it had
themes within themes.
Yeah, themes within themes, which made it more interesting to watch, because you're able to like take the journey as you're changing the subject, into a different space. But yeah, that was really cool. And also, it was really weird watching it because I paid to watch every single one of those fights, but maybe like with my friends, like you would pitch in. Remember when HBO did it? You would pitch in and go to someone's house. That's how you watched it, because now I could buy my own, but before you had to split it. Yeah, before you had to split
money
it.
bags.
Yeah,
Okay.
Before you had to split it. But I remembered every single fight, and I kind of wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
Like when he fought Camacho, I was like, shit, I wish I could watch that again.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a great fight. But all those fights, I remember watching them. I remember the emotions you had, when they were going to lose or win, or whether they were underdog or not. When he was fighting Chavez, that was a big deal, dude.
Yeah.
You knew. I mean, I was pretty certain he was going to lose.
Yeah.
Like in my young mind, I was like, oh yeah, there's no way he's beating Chavez.
I went to Tijuana to watch it.
Did you really?
At Caliente, yeah, it was crazy.
Oh,
it was
wow.
packed, and then we had to get out of there because there was only a handful of Mexican Americans. It was all, and we're like, yeah, and we're like, oh shit,
wait, yeah,
because we thought the same thing. I thought it's not gonna happen. Then we're like, and then he starts winning. We're like, oh fuck, and we just, and I'm a kid, and we start cheering, and we're drinking, and then it's like you hear the fucking needle hit the record. Everybody turns, look, we're like, all right, wait a minute. Let's get some tacos.
But yeah, I mean, look, it's a great documentary. I think one of the things I wanted to touch on is, the journey was over 3 years to do the doc. But at the beginning of you guys thinking about doing this, there was also competing docs happening, and there was the possibility that it couldn't happen. How do you keep moving forward when like there's all these obstacles?
Well, there was a competing doc at the beginning of it. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out what they covered in that, because you don't want to cover the same thing. At least if you're working with like a HBO or premium sort of platform.
Was there ever a danger that it wasn't going to get done?
Yes, there was.
See, that's crazy.
No, for sure there was a danger. Yeah. Again, I think it goes back to like, what story are we telling? Are we telling a story of Oscar as boxer, or are we telling a story of Oscar as a human? And so that changes things all of a sudden. Now we're all into like what hasn't been covered, because it all seemed like up until that point, Oscar was only willing to tell the stories that everybody already knew. I think he did that in the other one that came out at that time. But you need like the people behind it that push for like, what part of this story are we telling? I think that, not to sound like an asshole or anything, but like we're starting to get like other people that are pitching us to do a bunch of interesting stories. It's not that the subjects are not interesting, they all are, but that's not good enough. I think we have conversations now that are, what part of their story are we telling?
Right.
What angle are we coming in at? I think you do the same thing whether it's unscripted or scripted. In a scripted film or TV series, you're trying to find not just the story that's on the surface, but you're trying to find like the angle of how you get in,
right?
What makes it relevant and interesting to a wide variety of people. And so I think that we sort of always felt confident in that we had this idea of we were going to tell the cultural, we're going to start with that, of like how Oscar felt about who he was as a person. And that felt very different from what anybody else was doing at the time. So we felt like we would still have enough subject matter to get into that.
Was there more than one competing doc? Was there other stories being told about him, or
there was
just
tons
one?
of shit with him because he's been a known person for like the last 20 years. So there was tons of like archive footage and interviews and stuff that that was out there. But again, he's been full of shit for 25 years. So this was the first one that was like, oh, you want to tell the truth this time, boo? Yeah. And he did. And to his credit, he did.
Yep.
To his credit, he told the truth.
So it's nothing like anything that's been done on Oscar before.
It's nothing like anything that's been done on any cultural icon of his status that has been done.
Right.
It is different. you will have a little bit of a better understanding of like what it's like to be like a A-list celebrity or like a big time athlete, all the things that come with that. I think he lays it out pretty well, and it feels very relevant to most people in terms of like the struggles that he had with his family going through it all. Relationship with his mother and his father and his brothers and sisters, and so like it doesn't feel so disconnected. Like, yo, Michael Jordan, man, he can do things that I can never do. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like, man, this dude is fucked up the same way my family's fucked up. And the reason he started punching people in the face is because he was as frustrated as I was growing up. And he just like was more frustrated, and so he punched them harder in the face than I ever did.
He kept punching.
He kept punching, and so like that's kind of like where it was, and like, but it all comes back, no matter how gold medals or money or all that. Like, he still struggles the same way that we do with like being a father and being a son and all that stuff, and I think that's why it's interesting.
If you're thinking about doing a documentary, I think you need to consider all of the things that Jeff's talking about. Who's Jeff? Stearns. Everything Stearns is talking about, and also the idea that it may take a long time, and that there's politics, and that there's other documentaries being done maybe on the subject you're doing, and it doesn't matter as long as you're finding a unique, interesting creative way of doing the art. Then you're going to be okay.
Just to add to that too, just don't do the Wikipedia version of it all. That's the thing. It's like we get pitched stuff that is like, you should do a doc on this, and like, okay, well, that's the Wikipedia version.
Right.
Which part of the story we diving into? And so, like, if you are getting into the space, find the angle, find the part that is super fascinating, and get into that, because nobody gives a shit about the Wikipedia.
Yeah. Well, last time you were on the show, we were talking about what you guys were doing and where you were going, and now you're doing documentaries, making movies, doing other documentaries, doing pretty amazing stuff. So I guess continue the good work.
What's the next thing?
Yeah, what is next?
Can't tell you.
It's a secret.
Can't tell you, but I'm telling you this. You can catch your number one on Netflix.
It's gonna be number one somewhere.
He gonna be good.
Yeah, no, that's exciting.
Yeah.
But definitely check out Golden Boy. What's the tagline? I love the tagline.
The Golden.
The Golden Boy. It's called All That Glittered Was Not Gold.
Oh,
I like that. I think it's cool. But anyway, that's the
Kyoto Monster hit us. I was like, I love that tagline. I was like, it's fine.
Well, you guys took a long time.
I was like, cliche.
When you fight really hard to get a tagline you love, I think you end up not liking any of them at the end. But I really did like it. I think it's really cool. The Golden Boy is a great documentary. Check it out on HBO, on Max, July 24th and 25th, and then after that it'll be streaming, so check it out. You guys did a great job. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Can't wait to see what's next. All right, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time on Film Hustlers.
Foo Crew.
Thanks, bud.